Where would we be without the various products delivered by the men and women in the trucking industry? Healthy Conversations in Trucking podcast is a platform for professional long-haul truck drivers to share their journeys over the road, educating listeners about the trucking industry and lifestyle. Now, let's dive into the conversation on this brand new episode. Greetings, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Healthy Conversations in Trucking. I'm Dr. Charlotte Huntley, and I'm your host, joined by my husband and co-host, Jonathan Huntley. Hi, Jonathan.
Hey, Doc. How you doing?
I'm good. On this episode, I had a conversation with John Elston, and I'm going to connect that conversation in just a moment, but I thought it would be great to just have you do a little introduction of who he is, because you all have a special connection. So tell us a little bit about who he is.
John Elston is a true professional. John was my first trainer back in 2009, and I was out with him for a couple months doing all the requirements I needed to get out of the truck and get on my own. And I think without John's professionalism and his teachings, I would have never been able to do that. Some of the techniques he taught me and told me I still use today. I think John is a true professional, and we're extremely lucky to have him in the trucking industry as a trainer, because I know for facts that whoever comes out of his truck will have a long, safe, prosperous driving career.
He is an amazing person. I'm fortunate to have actually met him in person a few times. And he's such an incredible individual. Each time I cross paths, I get to hear from him, talk to him. I learn something new, something a little different about him. And it's just such a kind heart, very knowledgeable. And you'll hear a lot of that in the conversation that I had with him, which I'll connect to in just a moment. But I just wanted to give a little bit of an introduction and a more personal introduction, because he's a great professional in the industry, but he's also touched both of us personally. So looking forward to that. So I can go ahead and connect our conversation with John. I'm excited to welcome John Elston to the podcast. Hi, John. How are you?
Very good.
I appreciate you taking some time to chat with me and share your journey. So let's jump in. Why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself?
So I'm driving reefer, which means better definition is temperature controlled freight. So it could be a dry load. So in other words, furniture or things of that nature, or something that has to be controlled like ice cream or plants, live animals, or recently dead animals. I carried rodents from one state to another.
Really?
Yeah, they were probably for the pet industry, and took them from New York to Indiana.
Oh, okay. Well, my scientific hat just popped up, so I was like, that sounds interesting. So how long have you been in trucking?
I started trucking in July 4th weekend of 2008. I was working in a water treatment lab. Prior to that, they decided to close out the lab and convert it over to just the operators themselves taking care of everything. And so I'm 53 years old, and having been on the hiring side of life, I am hearing challenged because of medical issues that have caused my hearing loss. So I know that it's going to be a challenge to get hired again, to get working someplace. So I looked, and the trucking industry didn't care that I was older. The trucking industry, as long as I could pass the hearing test, didn't care about my hearing loss. So I came over, and I started by attending a driving school locally, completed that, got my CDL, and then went to Dallas, Texas, and went on to Stevens Transport. A very good company for training purposes, a very good company for learning a lot of things. The biggest issue I had then with Stevens, because I am the older generation, I do have the tendency to stick with something so long that it will actually hurt me, because I just have that kind of loyalty behind something. So I was there, but unfortunately, it was a national, they're national carriers and nationally, known, but they were paying Texas wages. I'm in California, they're paying Texas wages, and I couldn't survive. So an opportunity came for me to switch companies. I did. I've been over here for, this will be my 7th year over here. Pay has been much better for me. It's worked out much better. I'm much happier that way. I know that Stevens has now changed their marketing, but at the time, that was the decision for me. Great company for trading, but long term, it wasn't a good company at the time.
Yeah, I understand that. And so when you started out, were you driving the same type of truck or hauling the same type of goods as you're doing now?
Yes, it was reefer. So I was hauling. I hauled plants at one point, which I really enjoyed because they were live. So much of what we haul is meat and produce, which is already harvested. Whereas I was very happy to be able to haul a load of live plants from California to Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio, 2 stops in each state. It was funny that the paperwork said the driver was required to help do the unloading, and then you get to the locations, and they were like, "What are you doing back here?" I said, "Paperwork says I have to help unload." We've never had a driver help unload.
So now I have a question. This is not planned, it's an impromptu question, but I'm curious because you said you have hauled produce from, say, California to Indiana. So in my mind, I'm wondering if something is harvested at a farm, say in California, and it gets loaded onto your truck, how long does it take you to get to Indiana to deliver that?
So if we have a full clock, in other words, either we're not working off of refreshing our clocks, we're just simply starting a fresh clock, let's say, so our full 70, as they would say, then you're going to be able to do at least 500, but normally closer to 600 miles a day. So you're looking at maybe 4 days. Now, it's run on a team truck where it's 2 drivers that are got full use of everything. Well, now you're looking at 1,000 to 1,200 miles a day on that truck, and it can take you can go from California to the East Coast in 3 days.
Oh, I get it. I was just thinking in terms of the produce arriving to the stores and and still being fresh.
Right. Well, when it comes, okay. So the produce coming. Let's look at something that I enjoy eating: broccoli and cauliflower. So we're in Salinas, California. We're harvesting broccoli and cauliflower. Normally harvested almost same time of year, same locations there in the Salinas area. Comes in out of the field very early in the morning, gets processed, which means it gets washed very thoroughly, and it might get some cutting as far as remove any brown spots or things of that nature that just naturally occur organically in the field. Then it is cooled, super chilled. They have a thing that just blasts in the super cold air, put into a box, if it's broccoli, the box is a wax-coated box because on the top of it, they're going to put ice. So that during the entire trip, even though the reefer unit is set at 34 degrees, that ice is going to continue to melt and drip down through that broccoli, keeping that broccoli a little cooler, a little damp, because broccoli has a tendency, if you don't do that, especially if it starts drying out a little bit, it will try to bloom. You'll get that as you see with broccoli, sometimes in the store, you see the little yellow part. That's the flower where it's getting ready to flower. So it's trying to prevent that from happening. So from harvest to where it's loaded in your truck is less than 12 hours. So from harvest to the distribution center is, well, let's say 3 days. Okay, maybe 4. From distribution center to the store is the next day, because it's coming out. Produce comes out of the distribution centers really fast. They know it just can't sit there. It's gone instantaneously. So you're looking at from harvest to you getting it in your hands 5 days maybe. And the whole time it's been refrigerated. It's been, kept, very well that way. And it gets weird when you start talking about things like apples or oranges, because those can sit in a warehouse. They can sit in a warehouse a whole lot longer than you think they can, just because of how they're chilled down.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you giving me that example. I've always wondered about that. And just a side note, I like the broccoli and cauliflower example. I'm eating a lot of cauliflower these days. It's become my new favorite vegetable. But thank you for that. So, that's really interesting to note. And I guess a lot of these things you learn from just by being on the road for so long and hauling those type of products. It's a really interesting story. So how much time do you spend on the road before returning home?
So I took the longest amount of time I've taken since driving a truck in this last November. So that's been, I said, 2008 till last year, November. I took 10 days off. That's the most time I've ever taken off. Until then, I will probably take, I was only going to take 2 or 3 days off at the most before March. I did go home to Arizona for a minute to pick up some stuff, visit my daughter, and I got injured from the last load I'd hauled, which was a load of the rotisserie chicken-like stuff that you would normally buy at Walmart. Mm-hmm. They had several cases rejected for no reason. They said it was leaking. It was not. There had been a leak prior to it. Anyway, it was 200 pounds of over 200 pounds of chicken. Plus the pallet, so a total of 300 pounds that I had to move around in the trailer. And by the time it was all done, I realized, no, you made a mistake when you twisted on something, and so you're hurting now. So that was it. Anyway, so I ended up taking a few days off. Otherwise, I take maybe 10 days off. Not in a row, but 10 days off total in a year.
Over the year?
Over the year.
Oh, my goodness. So you're always in your truck?
Yes.
Wow. So where do you travel? Like what states or regions of the country? Are you all over the place, or do you have a certain area that you tend to kind of circulate through?
There's no particular area. I go through all 48. I don't go to Canada, but I go through all 48 otherwise.
Okay. Now, this is, I'm going to move into some of the life on the road stuff, because I'd love to know, what is your favorite part of the country? Or maybe do you have a favorite state to travel in? And tell me why it is, whatever your favorite is, tell me why.
That one is a hard one, because I love being able to see things new and different all the time. One of the things that I learned to appreciate growing up was flowers. So I love being able to take pictures of flowers. Now, I may take a picture of a flower in the grass and the weeds. Like in Florida recently, I took pictures of flowers there. So they're little tiny flowers, but when you blow them up a little bit, it's just amazing the intricacy of the flower. Mountains. So I find it difficult. I'm so much of the idea of, I still like to be a kid at heart and still like to enjoy looking at everything. I really do. I'm still amazed going past New York. I didn't grow up on the East Coast. I grew up in California. To drive by, to go on 95 going north, even to go across the gosh awful George Washington Bridge, which is just terrible as a trucker. Just a terrible bridge to go across. But I'm sorry, I still can look at things and be, I whenever I go across that bridge, I always think, more recently, I always think about, well, what about the crash on the Hudson? Can you imagine being going across that bridge the day when that plane went down in the Hudson River? Mm-hmm. Wow, what a fantastic thing. But I do enjoy going everywhere. I really do. Even through nasty traffic area, I still try to find something to keep my mind entertained and learning, because otherwise it's horrible to be out here otherwise.
Yeah. I like your upbeat, your positive view. That does make it something new every time. Every day is different. You're expecting to see, what am I going to discover today? It does make it much more enjoyable. So what do you like most about what you do?
Because of going back to, I had 2 cholesteatomas, one in each ear, that ended up destroying my hearing in both ears. So you're like, what does that have to do with my question, John? Well, here's where it comes down to. I live in purgatory. I'm not so deaf that I have to use sign language, but I'm also not so well of hearing that I end up having to read lips sometimes to be able to understand somebody. Because of that, I love being a hermit. I love it. Mm-hmm. I absolutely love it. Right now I'm talking to you. The hearing aid is Bluetooth. So the hearing aid actually is picking you up 100%. So maybe you're having trouble understanding me because you've got the truck noises and whatever else is going on around me, but I hear you 100%. I can concentrate on your conversation 100%. I so enjoy that. It's so wonderful to have that. So that's an absolute thrill. It's so often I have been at I'll give you an example. I go to a convenience, constantly go to the convenience store at the truck stop, go inside to buy something, and the person behind the counter will ask a question. I'm on the phone with my wife or a friend, and I'm standing there looking at them because I didn't understand what they said. Why? Everybody's got their silly little mask on. So I have no idea what they said. The person on the phone, they'll tell me what they said because they could hear them. That's the funny one to me. So, okay, no, I don't need that. I don't need that yet.
Right.
So the joy of not having to try to interact with, do I enjoy talking to people? Do I enjoy interacting with people? Well, of course I do. I'm a human being.
Right.
But the joy, the interacting with people where I'm supposed to, be responding back and forth, that's been taken away from me. So I do enjoy being able to be on the truck. I can learn. I can do what I want to do. When I'm stopped for hours. Hey, I'm learning a new crochet stitch. So what can I say?
Oh, just love it. Okay, so this is going to probably be maybe a little difficult for you to answer, but what do you like least about trucking?
Being a hermit. Oh, sorry, that was a big answer. But that is true because, going, when I am able to be home, whether it's in Arizona and see my daughter and my mother and my brother once in a while, or whether it's to go home to see my wife, who's still in California at the moment. We're trying to move out, but it's taking a lot of time. Not being able to be with the people you love and not being able to be around, other people on a consistent basis. Because if you're with people consistently, then they know about your hearing problem. But every day meeting new strangers, which probably there's very few times I can think of. One in particular was a Target I used to deliver to all the time, and there was a young lady behind the counter, and she was there all the time. Every time you showed up, she was there. And one of her last times that her and I met, it was funny. I actually made her cry. Not the sad tears, but the happy tears, because I just explained to her how much I appreciated how she made everybody's day, because how she interacted with everybody.
Yeah.
So being able to share those moments with people, I love being able to do that. So being a hermit is a joy, and being a hermit is a curse.
Yeah.
And so then trying to balance the two does make it a challenge. But then how can I take and express that? Well, one thing is by crochet, because that gives me, rather than sit here and, play video games, watch whatever else, instead learning something, applying it, and then being able to give that item away. So now I've interacted with somebody directly or indirectly, but I've interacted with somebody and I brought joy to somebody. So that gives me joy.
Oh, that makes me smile. That is just wonderful. I love to hear that. And I know this about you because I've known you for a while, but I hear something new in this conversation. Each question I ask you, I learn a little something new about you. It warms my heart. Let me ask you a few questions. I'm going to transition a little bit because I know that being over the road can bring out its own health challenges. Just not being able to have the convenience of getting to a doctor or a pharmacy or whatever the needs are. But what is the biggest health related challenge for you over the road? Would you say?
I'll give you an example of just last night. I stopped at a truck stop. It said it had a restaurant. I don't know if the restaurant closed prior to COVID or because of COVID, but it's closed. Go inside the convenience store area. I think you could have fit the entire convenience store in my trailer if it was empty. 53 by 8 feet. Little tiny convenience store. Walk around, and there is virtually nothing in there that you can consume and be able to write home to your mama and tell her you were proud that you ate it. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. The fruit baskets that were sitting there where fruit is supposed to be were empty. That is the biggest challenge, is trying to find food that is not pre-processed. And of course, the problem with pre-processing is even things that are quote unquote healthy or let's rephrase that, marketed as healthy are you read the ingredients. A Cliff Bar, first ingredient, brown rice syrup. Well, the Food and Drug Administration lists syrup to have certain characteristics, and one of those is, of course, a sweet content. Well, when you're over 240 pounds, you don't need sweet content. You're already sweet enough. So, so you got to about, well, how do I take and eat? What do I take? And the other thing is trying to think. Again, me trying to sit here and blame trucking for my weight is incorrect. Does it add to the problem? Yes. But is it the problem? No. And so that's the problem. Is that, we sometimes get caught up in that cycle. But hey, if you ate like you did when you were in high school, and maybe you were active on a sports team, you were doing this, you were doing that, it's right. You're not doing that on this lifestyle. This is 8 to 14 hours of sitting on your behind, up to 19 actually, 19 hours sitting in a truck.
Right.
I thought it was only a 14-hour day, John. No. They changed the law. They took and said you could pause your clock. So now you hit the little pause button on your clock, and so it pauses here. Now you're sitting at the place getting loaded for 5 hours. Well, how long is it going to take to load you? If you can answer that question, I got $1 million for you. But since you can't, I know that I don't have to worry about writing you a bounce check. So,
so it's 5 hours. Is 5 hours like what you're allowed to sit for loading?
I forget how many hours you can sit there, but you can pause your clock. So let's say you started your day at 6 in the morning, and you drove to get loaded. You drove, let's say you drove 100 miles. So just round it off to 2 hours. 9 hours available to drive. So now we're going to add 5 hours to that 2 hours. And so now that's 7 hours plus 9. We're at 16 hours right off the get-go. Plus, then you have to take a half-hour break required by law. Oh, wait. You got to fuel. Oh, wait, that fueling time now counts as off-duty time, even though it's on duty, but it counts towards off duty. So, yeah. You were up 17, 18 hours. Oh, we don't care. Get the load there on time. It's wonderful, because you're no longer, as I eloquently say, you're no longer a human. You're a driver. You have to think differently. You're not a human. You're a driver. We don't care about your human attributes at all. We only want you to think about moving the product. If something happens, we care about the load, and we care about you as a driver, as a human. You're second or third on the list, but you care about the load first.
That's heartbreaking, but I do get it. And I know that's from what I hear, I don't know from personal experience, but from hearing and from what my husband goes through and hearing people like you, and it's heartbreaking, but it's true, which is one of the reasons why we're sharing this story.
How do I address certain challenges? One is I try my best to look ahead of time to select foods based on ingredients. The fewer the better. Why is it in the food? And finally, is it a natural item? So if I'm shopping, let's say I right now I want to get some bananas. Okay, do I stop at a Pilot, at a TA, at a Love's? Well, if I can't get to a Walmart, not every Walmart loves truckers. Then I'm going to stop at a Love's. Well, why am I stopping at a Love's? Bananas are $1 for two, as opposed to $1.29, I think it is now, at the Pilot, and for two, and $1.29 on the TA. They can either be 99 cents or $1.29 a piece at a TA. So I'll stop at the Love's to get my bananas. Because you got to think. Why do I got to think economics. You also have to think about other things. Yeah. But again, how do I get, certain things like that? But trying to be able to stop at a Walmart or any grocery store. But Walmarts are the most common for being able to stop and get more fresh items. The other thing is make sure I have a refrigerator that works, and have a real refrigerator as opposed to the usual igloo cooler. But a real refrigerator. Trying to pour water. Thinking about drinking something besides do I drink soda some? Confession time. So yes. Do I drink it as much as I used to? Absolutely not. Do I drink it once in a while? Absolutely. There's certain meals I just can't have without a soda. So do I have those meals as often as I used to? No, can't have pizza as much as I used to enjoy, because got to have soda with pizza for me. I never drank alcohol, so I got to have soda. So I'm trying to be better about what I'm consuming and thinking about it's the psychology behind it more than anything else that I'm finding for myself at this stage. Hey, what was so easy to do for food prior needs to be much more limited as far as how food cannot be a reward. Food can't be, anything else. It simply has to be what is needed to survive and move forward, not a reward.
That is, I never quite thought about it like that, but it's a really interesting perspective, and I can definitely see how that would make a difference. I know if you think about, a lot of times we do reward, with food. Oh, I met this milestone. Let's go out to eat.
Right.
Let's have So it's a great point, especially like that. It is. I mean, for you, and given the fact that you aren't home very often, so you really have to be strategic about where you can find your fresh foods. And I really thought all Walmarts were the easiest. I mean, trucks could get into Walmarts. So your point about not all Walmarts like the big trucks, a little eye-opening for me. So you really have to be so intentional about finding the places to get your fresh fruits and vegetables and healthy food options. That's a lot of work. It really is. Thank you for that. So I'm going to ask. Oh, please go ahead.
On the idea of what I would recommend for other people out here doing the same silly thing I'm doing, and that would be, instead of getting a microwave, I'd suggest getting an Instant Pot instead. And I don't mean the Instapot with the air fryer on it. No, you're wanting to stay healthy. Start making healthier choices. And air fryer is, I don't know if it's any necessarily much healthier than some of the other choices that are out there. But an Instant Pot, the joy to me is that you can make like a potted chicken noodle soup. And it can cook while you're driving. Because the lid is solid, you don't have to worry about a bump on the road suddenly cracking your lid like you would with a crock pot. Because it's a solid metal object, it's not like your microwave where, again, you're going to have to worry about the glass tray inside. You have to worry about this, that, whatever else. No. Cooks while you're driving. Cook as a crock pot. It can cook as an Instant Pot. So therefore, you can make, you can brown up meat with it, like hamburger meat. You can brown that up. You can do sort of things like that. So I really love an Instant Pot that way.
I never thought about that. So when you make, because I have an Instant Pot in the kitchen, so when you have one on the truck and you make whatever your meal is, and how do you clean it?
Well, there's two ways. One is you can buy the bag that you can put into a crock pot.
Yeah.
And then you throw things away that way. Mm-hmm. The other thing is if you made up a big pot, you're going to use it for a couple of days, like a pot of chili or something like this. Which again, nothing wrong with a pot of chili. It's a matter of what did you put in it? Did you put things in it that you know how to read?
Right.
And then you can throw it. You can cover it up, throw it in your refrigerator. You leave yourself room to do that. Now then, throw it back in there, put it on reheat. You stir it up a few times so it's good. Might have to add a little water to it or whatever to help it out. But anyway, so now it's time you got to totally clean it. Inside of every truck stop is a sink near the coffee pots. Just take your thing of dish soap in there, put a little in your pot, go over there to the sink and do your thing. They're not going to complain at you.
Oh,
as long as you're not using their dish soap or whatever else, you're fine.
What a great tip. I like that. Wow. Well, I really enjoyed the conversation. I especially love the tips and hearing all of the ups and downs, ins and outs of what you do. And just, I want to just remind you and let you know that I appreciate you for all that you do and the sacrifice you make to be on the road and to help keep our country moving. So not only thank you for being on the podcast, but thank you for what you do.
Well, thank you, Dr. Huntley.
Thank you for listening to the Healthy Conversations in Trucking podcast. Learn more or be a guest on a future episode by visiting healthyconversationsinTrucking.com or simply HCITpodcast.com.